Good evening. Welcome to Emergency Behavior Intervention Part 1. My name is Scott Batson. Before we start the PowerPoint, I want to make sure we have a couple of ground rules followed. Remember that it is one test per person, and I want to make sure everyone has the correct test before we get started. Prior to this video, you should have watched the TBRI overview that was presented to you by a Pathways employee. The first 10 questions of our Behavior Intervention Part 1 test come from that video. You can find that video on YouTube or ask a Pathways employee how to make sure that you get a copy of that video so that you can get those first 10 questions. If you didn't get them, you can always go back and rewatch that. The next 8 questions on this test will come from the PowerPoint that we're going to be reviewing tonight, as well as Pathways discipline policy. A little bit before we get started on the PowerPoint itself, kind of what's going on around Texas. For many of you know that since 2010, Texas has been in a class action lawsuit where former foster children are suing the state of Texas, stating that there was more trauma happened to them while in the foster care system than if they would have just stayed home. Because of this lawsuit, there have been many changes in the system over the last 13 years. This lawsuit continues to be in effect, and it's overheard by a federal judge named Judge Jack. Because of this lawsuit, our foster care system is ever changing and ever evolving. So you do have to be comfortable with change. And when a new rule comes through from the court system or through state legislation or through CPS or residential child care regulation policies, we always say, don't kill the messenger. You know, Pathways is the one delivering that message. This isn't Pathways rules and regulations. We are monitored and regulated by the state, so we want to make sure that we are following those rules as well, because that's the way we are regulated. Now, a couple of big things that have happened over the last 13 years besides the lawsuit. In 2018, there was a federal law that was passed called the Family First Preservation and Services Act. And you can Google this as well, and it'll tell you all about it. What the Family First Act did is it put more federal tax dollars in place during the investigative stage of the CPS investigation. The goal is to keep children in the home so that they never enter the foster care system. So during that investigative stage, more money is being spent to offer services and resources to the biological parents, things such as parenting classes and anger management, psychological evaluations, inpatient or outpatient substance abuse treatment, counseling services, helping that family to find resources within the community like SNAP benefits, what we commonly refer to as food stamps, WIC for children that are birth to 4 years old, as well as even helping them to get on Medicaid. By alleviating those stress levels in the home, teaching those appropriate coping skills, hopefully CPS can keep the child in the home, teach the parents to be better parents, and ease out of that family's life where that child never entered the foster care system. Now, since this law went into effect in 2018, it really kind of took effect in 2019. To kind of give you an example, in 2019, there were 20,500 children entered the foster care system. The following year, in 2020, there were 16,500. So 4,000 children less entered the foster care system that following year. Fast forward a couple of more years later to 2023, it's estimated that 12,000 children will have entered the foster care system. So we're going to continue to see this decline of children entering foster care. There is still the need for foster parents, especially for children that have a barrier to placement, such as teenagers, large sibling groups, children with medical needs or habilitative needs, such as intellectual developmental diagnosis or physical handicapping conditions. So we still continue to see that need out there. 60% of children entering the foster care system is going to kinship families. So we see that bigger increase every year too of the number of children going to kinship families. And a kinship family is a relative in most situations that child is going to, such as grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, things of that nature. So that's kind of what's happening in our foster care system right now. If you're going through this process to become a foster or foster adopt family, just know it's kind of what we refer to as a hurry up and wait game. Hurry up, get through the process, become licensed, and then wait to see what comes through. It may be relatively quickly if you're wanting to foster those kids with barriers like teenagers, but if you're wanting younger kids, it may be 2 to 4 or more months before we actually get a child placed in your home. And it's not only are there less children entering the foster care system, it's also other agencies, over 300 child placing agencies across the state, continue to license families as well. So there are an abundance of families out there who are in the same situation you are, wanting to foster and adopt children. So anyway, just kind of keeping you apprised of what's going on across the state of Texas as we go into April, which is Child Abuse Awareness Month, and May, which is National Foster Parent Appreciation Month. You'll probably see more articles and news stories on the foster care system. So if you do hear about the lawsuit and the things that are happening within the system, just know this is nothing new. It didn't just happen. This has been going on for several years. But I think the more knowledgeable you are about it, the more your expectations are going to be a little bit more appropriate. So getting into this PowerPoint that we're about to do is Behavior Intervention Part 1. Now, there is a Pathways monitor on, so please make sure that you do have your video on, your camera. If you do have to walk away from your camera, please let that monitor know. We're not unrealistic that you're putting kids to bed, you're getting something out of the refrigerator that a child can't reach on the top shelf, or those different types of things. Also be mindful, prior to COVID, this was a class that you had to come to in person. There was no such thing as online training prior to 2019. It was not allowed by residential childcare regulations. So also we expect you to pay attention and to actually learn from this. It's not a box that we're checking off that, oh, I did that, we can mark that off our list. We really want you to gain knowledge out of this and be able to turn around and understand how trauma impacts the development of the brain, where these kids are coming from, and why their reactions to some situations are the way they are, so that we can better equip you to be better parents to kids that have that come to us from trauma. So remember, it is one test per person. Please do not put 2 people's name on one test and turn it in. We will have to send it back. It is one test per person. So that's some of our big rules there. Ask questions. Feel free to type a question in the chat box to the monitor as we're going through this. At the end, we'll also give opportunity for questions that may have arisen throughout this PowerPoint. So a little bit about behavior intervention. What is understanding the roles of a parent? What we have to remember, children are not held accountable to respect authority at the home. They're never going to respect authority outside of the home. So guys, authority begins with you. You are the foster parents. You are the people who are opening up your home, whether you're a foster adopt family, or a kinship caregiver. You're opening up your home to a child in need. You have rules, consequences, and rewards. You are the parent of your home. So we expect you to be able to kind of follow through with those different types of things. Now, what Pathways is here for is to help process those different types of things. Whenever our family specialists do a home visit, when they come in, they can sit down with the child and kind of go through with that child what has gone on in the last week. Why are they in trouble right now? What happened at school, daycare, or home that they're in trouble, and kind of walk them through those situations and helping them to learn how to make better decisions in the future. We're not there to reinforce your rules and rewards and consequences. That is for you to do. What we see sometimes is where a foster parent wants to displace authority, where they want to say things like, "Ooh, wait till Pathways gets here. Wait till we tell your CPS worker. Wait till we tell, your teacher or somebody like that." And what happens there is we're displacing that authority. We're giving that to someone else. And what happens in those situations is, instead of being that child's parent and authoritarian figure, you become that child's peer in some situations. Then same way with law enforcement, we have seen parents that will call law enforcement if a child becomes unruly with their behavior, threatens to run away, they bring drugs into the home, and the parent calls law enforcement. Law enforcement comes in and they try their scared straight tactics, their military techniques, drill sergeant type techniques, and it works in the moment. It scares them. But the minute that law enforcement officer walks out of that home, now you're that child's peer instead of that child's parent. So we want you to remain a person of authority with that child. So kind of keep that in mind. Now, if we have a child that is truly a danger to themselves or others, we do want you to be able to reach out and receive immediate help. If that child is threatening to hurt themselves or others, what we may do is refer you to the Superior Crisis Hotline. If you look on the back of your child's Medicaid card, there are a series of 1-800 numbers on there. One of those is a crisis hotline through Superior Medicaid. You can also always pick up your phone and call 211 and ask for your local mental health authority. We commonly refer to them as an LMHA. There are 254 counties in Texas, and there are LMHAs located in every county in Texas. They can connect you to their crisis hotline. They will respond as well. They have a clinician that answers the phone. They can actually dispatch people to your home like a clinician or somebody that's qualified mental health professional to be able to help de-escalate that situation. If the child truly is a danger to themselves or others, they will also help with admitting that child into a psychiatric hospital. So those are a couple of different resources to use there in those moments of crisis. We want to let law enforcement be law enforcement officers into their jobs. For our children that are having mental health episodes, we want to rely on our clinicians and social workers to be able to work with the child and family in those situations. So that's what we kind of mean when we say we also want to keep that authority in the home. Also with schools, we want to keep that open line of dialogue and communication with the school district. Nowadays, things are a little bit more easier. We can log in. We can see a child's grades live. We can see when their tests are due, homework that they were assigned, projects that are coming up. We don't have to rely on those progress reports, midway through the 6 weeks and all. It kind of gives you that better dialogue with the teacher. You can send them messages and things of that nature. So we want to remain in contact with the teacher, ask them things that are how they are going with the child in the school. If we see a child that is doing really well in the classroom, ask that teacher, man, what are some of your classroom rules? What are you doing in that classroom that's making that child so successful? Because we're not having that experience at home. And maybe those are things that you can incorporate into your home. More often than not, we tend to see the child doing really well in the home because the home is more structured. There's less kids. There's 30 kids in a classroom. There's 2 or 3 kids in a home. There's less opportunities for them to get in trouble. So we could have that structure and supervision at home that sometimes they can't afford to have at the school. Two-way street, share that information with that teacher and help them to understand what you do at home to help that child be successful so that maybe we can have that same success in the classroom. But we want to keep that open dialogue. We had a foster parent that had retired from fostering a couple of years ago after 30 years of fostering. Her name was Miss Alford, and she fostered children with developmental intellectual disabilities. And she adopted 2 of the last boys that she had been fostering for 7 years. They were brothers, but she had another little boy in her home that she just couldn't make that adoption commitment to. He was 14 years old and he had autism as well, spectrum disorder and borderline intellectual functioning. The last year that he was with her and she had notified everybody that she was ready to retire, that she said, I'm in no rush. We want to make sure that we find an appropriate placement for this child. We don't want to just move him to moving. And that last year that he was with her, he put 6 teachers on medical leave, ripped a closet door off the hinges in one of the classrooms, and kicked out 16 bus windows while in a 5-point harness. So we had to go to the school and actually sit down with the teachers and talk to them about how to pick up on his nonverbal cues. How do we know when he's getting upset? What our eyes can tell us that he's getting upset. So we had to go through those different types of things with them so that we could help them to better understand how to keep him to keep him regulated, and if he's starting to get upset, how they could intervene quickly to calm him back down. So we want to make sure, again, keep that that communication with that teacher. Number 11 on your test, if you're looking at your test, it's a true false that says children learn by making mistakes. Parents should overlook mistakes that are not from a defiant will. So on number 11 of your test, true. We want to make sure that we give our children that chance to be redirected and learn appropriate coping skills. Things that are we should overlook that are not of a defiant will. One of those would be bedwetting. A lot of our children in care may wet the bed for a variety of reasons. It may be their developmental age. It may be that they're sleeping so soundly when they go to bed at night that their brain's just not waking them up to go to the bathroom. A lot of our children are on psychotropic meds. And because of those psychotropic meds, they may be prescribed a medication at night to help them sleep. For things as mild as melatonin or Benadryl to a little bit heavier psychotropic med like clonidine or Klonopin, to help them with sleep. So because of those, they may just really be sleeping very hard. We got to remember that we cannot discipline a child for bedwetting. That's not of a defiant will or nature. So things that we can do to help that child in the problem-solving, solution-making process of that. One thing we can do is it takes our body 90 minutes to process fluid. If your bedtime is at 8:30 at night, our last call, our last drink is going to be 7 o'clock. That way we allow that child that 90 minutes to process that fluid, go to the bathroom prior to going to bed, so that hopefully we can decrease maybe those bedtime accidents. If a child does have an accident, we don't want to belittle them or make them feel less than. We want to encourage them to come wake you up so that we can get their sheets changed and their bedclothes changed and all of those types of things and get them back to bed. Do remember, it is a licensing regulation that any bed used by a child in foster care has to have a mattress protector on it. For baby beds and toddler beds that are made out of plastic, we don't necessarily have to have one because we can use a Clorox solution and Lysol and wipe that mattress down. Whereas a regular mattress is going to absorb. And we got to remember in pre-service, I believe it's 4, where we talk about universal precautions and infectious diseases. We think about bloodborne pathogens and all. So if a child not only wets the bed, defecates, vomits, bleeds, we've got to make sure that it's not absorbing into the mattress. So therefore we have those mattress protectors on there. So encourage that child, to wake you up so that we can take care of those things appropriately. If we belittle them and make them feel less than, they're going to take their bedclothes and their sheets and they're going to hide them. They're going to hide them in their closet, under their bed, and then we're going to come across them later and it's going to be really gross. So we want to make sure that we're in the loop and taking care of that in live time. One of our families in Dallas taught me one time, they foster a lot of toddler age children in that potty training stage. They said one of the things they do is they do a mattress protector and a fitted sheet, a mattress protector and a fitted sheet. So they layer it. So if a child does have an accident, it's a quick, they can take off that fitted sheet and the mattress protector, and the next one layer is already there and ready to go. So talk to families. They will give you some really, really good ideas. Other things that we can do, there are sheets out there or fitted sheets that are quilted across the middle. If you look on Amazon or other websites, that you can probably get some good ideas there. That way it absorbs rather than spreading everywhere if the child has an accident. And I've even seen some that have an alarm set to it so that if it feels moisture, the alarm goes off, wakes up the child, so that they can start, cleaning themselves up, as well as the sheets and all. So those are a couple of ideas there. Now, it also takes our brain 21 days to create a new habit. So one thing we can also consider is setting an alarm so that when the alarm goes off, let's say they're getting up every night at 1 o'clock. Well, maybe we need to set the alarm for 12 a.m. rather, in the middle of the night. So that alarm goes off. It may take them a month of that alarm going off every night at midnight to wake them up so they can get up and go to the restroom. Now, hopefully the month of that internal alarm clock kind of starts going off as well. Kind of like us as adults, we want to sleep late on Saturday or Sunday morning. And guess what? We're wide awake at 6 o'clock, just like we do during the week. So hopefully we can kind of set that internal alarm clock for them as well, and help them in that situation. Now, there's also a medication that you can talk to your pediatrician about called DDAVP, their initials, that helps constrict the bladder. So if we had a child that was going on an overnight trip with Boy Scouts to go camping, a church lock-in, spending the night with a friend, maybe that's something we could give them to help constrict the bladder so they're less apt to have an accident. It's not something we would give every night, but definitely something we can use in those situations, because we don't want their friends making fun of them and those types of things. And also let that chaperone know so that they're aware of the situation and may wake them up and make them go to the restroom in the middle of the night. So that's one type of mistake or that's not from a defiant will, an accident rather. Another one would be food related issues. And guys, the number one reason why children enter the foster care system is neglect. About 80% of children entering foster care have experienced some type of neglect within their lifetime. So these children that are coming to you, that are being placed in your home, may have issues related to food, where they get up in the middle of the night and they sneak into the kitchen and they take food and they hide it in their bedroom. Our adult brain a lot of times says it's defiance. They're defying our rules. They're getting up in the middle of the night, they're sneaking into the kitchen and they're stealing food. But that's not what this is. It's not a behavior issue. It is a survival skill. These children are coming from situations where they had nothing. Maybe the way they got food was panhandling, around the apartment complex and asking neighbors for food, panhandling in front of a convenience store, asking for money or food. Some of our children are taught at a very young age to shoplift, to go into a grocery store or a convenience store to shoplift food, because if a child is caught shoplifting, they're not going to be in trouble. The manager will shake their finger at them and they'll think that it's a learning experience and those types of things. Whereas when an adult is caught, charges are going to be filed. So parents may teach their children at a young age to shoplift in order to provide for the family. And we have some children, 9-year-olds, that are made to take care of their younger siblings and to provide for them. Their one meal a day may come from that free lunch program at school. So what do they do in the evenings or on weekends or during the summer when those lunch programs are not in place? And so we got to remember this. And when those kids are going in and taking that food, it should break our heart that their little brain is operating on survival mode like that. And it doesn't matter sometimes, no matter how much we tell them, we're always going to have food in the refrigerator. We're always going to have food in the pantry. You're never going to have to steal or hoard food here. It's not going to set with them because they've never experienced that lifestyle. It's something that's going to stick with them forever. So ways that we can help that child to cope through that. Sidney Poitier is a world-renowned actor that many of you have probably heard of over the years. He passed away last year in his 90s. He grew up in the Depression era and had food-related issues. One of the ways he taught himself to cope with that is he always carries an article of food on him at all times. He'll put a granola bar in his shirt pocket. He'll put a candy bar in his suit jacket. He could touch it, he could feel it, and it decreases his anxiety level. Now, Dr. Purvis, through TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention, says that if we place a bowl of snacks in the bedroom for that child, that's going to help them as well. Now, we need to pick something that's somewhat healthy and maybe smaller bags of things like little bags of goldfish crackers or fruit gushers, something like that. In the beginning, I can guarantee you those children are going to devour it. But as we continue to replace it, and we only put like a couple of bags of goldfish crackers, we don't mound it up in a heaping bowl, but we just continue to add a couple of bags. Eventually that child's brain is going to say, I can see it, I can touch it, and when I need it, it's always here. So we can help with those appropriate coping skills. learning about those food related issues. And guys, this isn't just older kids. I'll give you an example. We had a child about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, where he was born testing positive for drugs and was placed in a foster home, not a Pathways foster home. The foster family profoundly neglected this child for 6 months. At 6 months of age, CPS had to remove the child from the foster family, and he was hospitalized and diagnosed with failure to thrive because of such malnutrition. The child was there a couple of months, and then they broadcasting for placement, and we had a Pathways family that was interested in fostering him. They had experience working with children that had mild medical needs and developmental delays and such. So whenever they got him, he did have some mild medical needs related to that malnourishment. He also had developmental delays related to that malnourishment. As he grew, at 18 months old, he began eating his own feces. It was that need to constantly eat, that neglect in those first 6 months of his life resulted in that at 18 months of age. The family brainstormed, and they came up with only putting him in overalls because in overalls, he couldn't get to his diaper. So they thought they fixed the situation. About a month or so later, he started doing what was called rumination. He would throw up in his mouth and swallow it. It was that constant need to feel like he's eating. And so at that young of an age, it's not like we can put them in therapy because they're not little Stewie Griffin. If you ever watch The Family Guy, they can't just sit and carry on a conversation with the therapist and process. One of the things we did is they worked very closely with a nutritionist from Texas Children's Hospital. They started teaching that child at a young age sign language to say more when he was hungry, to have more instead of vomiting on himself and swallowing it. So that kind of helped a little bit. But one of the things that really helped is the nutritionist taught the family to do heavier, denser meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then our snacks in between to do things that kind of trick the brain. And so what they did for him is they picked healthy snacks, things like grapes, like fruit, and they would sit down and they would cut them into itty bitty small squares. So when they give him just a little cup full of cut up grapes, his fingers constantly reaching in there and picking up those little squares and eating it told his brain that he was getting full because it felt like he was constantly eating. For teenagers, we could do the same thing, but with popcorn. Popcorn's a little bit healthier. It looks like when we have a bowl full of popcorn, we're grabbing those handfuls of popcorn and eating them. So again, helps trick that brain into thinking that they're actually getting full in those situations. So there are those resources out there for our kids with food related issues, but just know it's not just our older kids that are going to have these issues. It's also our much younger kids because these kids are coming to us from neglect. So kind of keep those different types of things in mind when working with children as to why they may have some of these issues, behaviors that we're seeing. Our children's experiences tell them that love is conditional. Unconditional love may be a very difficult concept for them to understand. We use the word love a lot. You know, love is a big word. Love scares some of us when we use that word and we guard it and using it. But what we should say is nurture. We should unconditionally nurture children. Nurture looks like a variety of ways. Nurture could be the way we greet them when they come home from school or daycare. Hey, buddy, how was school today? Do we hug them? Do we high five? Are we fist bumping? You know, how are we showing that nurture? When we put them to bed at night, are we reading them a bedtime story, saying our prayers before bed? How are we tucking them into bed? And those types of things. When we wake them up in the morning, you know, how are we waking them up? That could also show nurture. Growing up, my mom, I have a brother, there's only the two of us, and she was really good about coming in and kind of waking us up. We got like 3 different levels of wake up. And so she'd kind of want us to start getting it on our mind, start waking up a little bit. And then she'd come back in a second time and say, all right, you know, you really need to start getting up now. I'm getting breakfast together. It's going to be time to come in and eat. And then once she kind of had breakfast done, and nothing major. I make it sound like she's really throwing together pancakes and waffles and eggs and bacon, but it was usually something very easy like cereal or whatever it may have been. But and then she would come and say, okay, it's really time to get up now. Breakfast is ready. We got to start getting ready for the day. So that was a very nurturing way of getting us up and rubbing us on the back and telling us it's time to get up, versus my dad, who would come in and turn on the light, turn off the fan, and just say, get up. And it would just infuriate me. But that was his way of doing it. So that's really different extremes there in the way that they would wake us up in the morning. But, nurture looks like a variety of ways. And so when we nurture a child, love is going to come with bonding and attachment. But if we start nurturing a child very early on, love is going to start developing from that bond and attachment, that not only we are relating to that child, but as that child is bonding and attaching to us as well. So kind of keep those things in mind, that we need to be nurturing. Nurture is what helps to undo trauma. Parents should also build good relationships with their children to gain trust, understanding, and obedience. Here's where I think we fail. We get an F sometimes as social workers. When we place a child in your home, they determine in the first 5 minutes of being in your home if they're going to bond and attach and connect with you. Do you know what we do horrible as social workers? And if you're a kinship family or you're currently fostering, you probably have experienced this. We come in, we sit down at the dinner table, the kitchen table, the living room, and we start filling out paperwork. Already in that first 5 minutes, we have neglected that child. We have sent them away from us, and we have showed them that you're not important enough, that the adults have things to do and you need to go and be somewhere else. So what we need to do is when Pathways and CPS comes into your home, tell us to go sit down at the dining room table, the kitchen table, the living room. And then we have a lot of paperwork we can start filling out. You take that child and go show them their bedroom, the bathroom, the layout of the home. Give them ownership. Say things like, this is your bedroom, this is your bathroom, this is, those types of things. Give them ownership. Very seldom do they come with very many things. They usually come with the clothes on their back and maybe their backpack or something like that, a little bag. Let's take that to their bedroom and say, hey, buddy, we're going to put your stuff in here. This is your bedroom. And then we're going to go show you the layout of the home. Once we do that, show them the backyard. Do you have a play set? Do you have a swimming pool, a trampoline, pets? Do you have pets? This is a lot of times where we find out children are mortified of animals. And guys, I'm telling you now, if you are a pet owner, you have to put the needs of children first. And not only the needs of children, but CPS workers and Pathways workers may have a fear of your pets, whether they're cats or dogs or whatever it is you may have. I'm a dog lover. I have dogs, but because I love my dogs doesn't mean I naturally love your dogs. And so courtesy may be putting that dog in their kennel, that pet in their kennel, in your bedroom, and shutting the door outside, wherever it is that they're kind of used to going. And allowing everybody to kind of get their job done, or also allowing that child to acclimate. We may have to keep the pet in their kennel at longer periods of time for that child to adjust and acclimate to them before we let them out. If we're placing a 3 or 4-year-old child in your home and you have a large dog, they're right in their face. Can you imagine a dog the size of a 6-foot person? That's kind of intimidating. It's like a horse walking up to us. So kind of think about how a child perceives that animal when they may have never had pets before, or maybe they've had a bad experience with an animal before. So keep those things in mind as that child is coming into your home. Now, other things we need to kind of be aware of is once we do the paperwork, let's sit the child down and say, hey, buddy, we're going to turn on the television. Here's a little snack. The adults are in here filling out paperwork. If you need anything, come get me. But when we're done, what are we going to do? Placements seem like they usually happen in the evening times. We're going to go get something to eat because you probably didn't have time to make dinner. And not only that, they come with nothing. So you may be getting in your car and driving to Target or Walmart or Kohl's or the grocery store or, those different types of places once we all leave your home. But give them that chance to acclimate and kind of see who you are. I think another missed opportunity with our children is dinner time. We all sit down at the dinner table, and what do? We turn on the television, or we're immersed in our phones and our tablets. So I think it's also important, that we put those away. One of my coworkers, her and her husband, their rule is when they come in from work, they put their phone on silent and put it in a bowl until dinner is finished. Once dinner's finished, they can immerse themselves in social media, emails, whatever it is, games that they want to do. But for that period of time, they're going to connect with each other, and they're going to talk about their days and those different types of things that's going on in their life. Perfect way to get to know children. When we're all sitting down at the dinner table, do those maybe some fun games with them. We had a family once that adopted a little boy. It's just the mom, dad, and the little boy. And they would do, my favorite part of the day is, they would go around the dinner table and they would say, my favorite part of the day was, and they had to fill in the blank. The little boy, when he was 7 years old, a lot of times he would tell on himself, but they got to know who his friends are, what his favorite interests were in school, his favorite courses, and those different types of things. Maybe things he heard on the playground or the school bus that they need to clarify. And then they would also say my least favorite part of the day was, and they would kind of go around and talk about that too. And he may say, getting in trouble in class. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. What did you do? And kind of get to know things a little bit more. So that gives you that ability to really get to know them and kind of open up. I think it's also important to listen. When that child says things like their favorite food is spaghetti, or their favorite television show is whatever, incorporate that into your lifestyle. Not only is the child can't be the only person to do all the changing, we have to do some of the changing. So if that child says their favorite food is spaghetti, and you make spaghetti from scratch from your grandmother's recipe, and they come in and take a bite and they hate it, don't get frustrated with them. Don't take it personal. The spaghetti they ate, mom might have boiled noodles and dumped in a bottle of ragu and called it a day. But guess what? Mom made that spaghetti, and that's probably what it is. They liked mom's spaghetti, like Eminem, But that's that. We can all do that tonight as well, going through our list of people that are here and say, what is the most favorite thing that your family member made? Whether that was your parents, your grandparents, my parents do at Christmas and Thanksgiving. What is it that they want us to make? What is our favorite dish? And we have those very favorite things that they do make, and nobody else's can compare to it. And you're probably not any different, and neither are children. We also need to remember, we as adults have 3,000 taste receptors on our tongue. Children have 10,000. There's a reason why when we were little kids, we did not like vegetables. We hated Brussels sprouts and broccoli and all those types of things. As adults, we've killed off all of our taste buds, and now we love those things because we can't taste it like we did as a child. Children pick up on the salties and the bitters and those different types of flavors, and that's why they don't like some of those different food groups. Now, they do tend to gravitate towards our white enriched flours like bread, pastas, chicken strips. They're more bland. They're not as salty or bitter, and that's why they kind of tend to gravitate towards those foods more often than not. So kind of keep those different types of things in mind when you're helping a child to adjust to your home and changing some of your lifestyles to theirs. Now, some of our children may be reluctant to become close. This is number 12 on your test, and it's a fill in the blank. So number 12, foster adopt children may be reluctant to become close to the foster adopt parents due to past experiences that may have led to pain or loss. And so your fill in the blanks on number 12 are experiences and loss. And I think it's really important to kind of remember these things, guys. Our children, a lot of times, like on the next bullet point there, it says they protect themselves by purposely not developing a relationship or even undermining that relationship. When a child begins to feel safe, they get scared. When they really start liking where they are, and they're starting to bond and attach to you, it scares them because something may happen. They may be removed from you, or they could go home, or they don't know what lies in the future. So sometimes children will undermine that relationship. They'll push back because of their previous experiences in life. Now, before that child ever entered foster care, they may have went from living with mom to living with dad, to living with dad's mom and dad, over to mom's mom and dad, and moved amongst relatives before they ever entered the foster care system. Now they're in the foster care system. They may move from one foster home to the next based on their behaviors or whatever it may be. A lot of times it may be inappropriate expectations of the foster parents, because these children cuss. They can get physically aggressive with other children. They may walk away or run away from us, and they do things that can possibly scare us. So we got to keep those things in mind while parenting children from hard places. On average, children in foster care move 7 times while in the foster care system. That's our average. So if you imagine 7 times is the average, what is the max? We had a family a couple of years ago. They adopted a 14-year-old girl. She came into foster care when she was 10. From the time she was 10 years old to when she came to live with them at 14 years of age, she had 21 foster placements. Guys, do the math on that. That's every couple of months she's moving. Now I just realized I was on mute. We're going to have to do some editing on this one. I lost power, so let's start this again from scratch. Let's see if we can edit out that middle part. So anyway, so this child, before being placed with this family, she had 21 placements. So imagine in your life, 21 losses, 21 divorces, 21 deaths, 21 times people told you you're not good enough, your attitude sucks, your language is vulgar, you have no personality or interest, and you're never going to be able to learn and get up to date on where you need to be, and those types of things. So at what point do we give a child, do they lose hope in certain things? At what point do they kind of just start giving up on us and the system and everything else? So it's very important that we are aware of their trauma history. We make that commitment to the children that are coming to live with us, and know that it's going to be some rough times out there. So that we can help that child through that grief and loss, and when they push back and they're not wanting to be in their placement anymore, or they're trying to manipulate, we need to know the underlying factor that's happening there. They're scared. They're scared that they're going to bond and attach to you, and you're going to give up on them. And so they're trying to protect their heart. So kind of keep those things in mind throughout this process. Now, every need should be supplied, but not every want. If you ever want to know what a child's want is, go to Walmart. You'll see lots of wants. But when we talk about needs, what we mean by that is, to me, number one is their emotional need. That's the important thing we should be fulfilling. That emotional need is pats on the back. Good job, buddy. Thank you for doing X, Y, and Z. Hugs, I love yous, whatever it is that for you and that child that makes them feel safe and comfortable and nurtured. That's meeting that emotional need. When they're melting down on the floor, we're not just standing over and going, get up, stop acting like a baby. we get down on the floor and we sit next to them and we rub their back and we calm them down. We help them to re-regulate, even when they're screaming and cussing and telling us they hate us and those types of things. You get down next to them and help them to regulate and get back to where they need to be. Educational. It is your right as a foster, adoptive, or biological parent to meet that child's educational need, to advocate for their education. Whenever a child is placed in your home by CPS, you're going to sign an education consent. That education consent gives you the authorization to go to the school, to participate in ARD meetings, individual education plans, PTO, parent-teacher conferences, whatever it is, you have that right as their educational consentor. Now, when a child is placed in your home and enrolled in school, we can request from the school for that child to be tested to see, are there any learning disabilities like dyslexia, reading comprehension, mathematics disorder? What grade level is that child reading on? Are they 10 years old but reading on a first grade level? So that way we can start seeing, are there any adjustments that can be made for this child? Do they qualify for special education services or what we call a 504 plan? A 504 plan means that child may stay in a mainstream classroom, but they have a reading comprehension problem. So whenever they're reading that test, they can read that question 15 times, but their brain just doesn't understand what that question is asking. However, if somebody reads that test to them, they can tell you the answer just like that. So when it's time to take tests, maybe that 504 plan says a paraeducator comes and takes that child to the library and they read the test to them. That's a 504 plan. It can work with ADHD and a variety of other things. Now, an ARD meeting, ARD stands for Mission Review and Dismissal. And that's the meeting we're going to have, the school is going to have. In that meeting is going to be the special education department, maybe the school counselor, a regular education teacher, you as the foster parent. We can go as pathways, the CPS worker, the CASA, that may be the CASA assigned to the case, court-appointed special advocate, the attorney that represents the child, a variety of people, so that we can make sure that we're advocating for that child's education. And every region in Texas, and I believe there's 11 regions in Texas, there is an education specialist that is employed by CPS that is there for us to call in our moments of need. So if we didn't know what to advocate for or ask for during an ARD meeting, we can get with CPS to see if that education specialist can call in by phone, listen, and also make recommendations. Every child, when they're enrolled in school, each school district in Texas, even charter schools, have a foster care liaison. At the beginning of the school year, they have to name somebody as the foster care liaison, and that's turned into Texas Education Agency, TEA. So when you're enrolling that child in school, ask them, who is the foster care liaison for this district or this campus? If they may not know, call the school administration building, the district administration building. They're going to be able to give you that information. And that person is there to also help you through the enrollment process. So developmental. For our babies and toddlers, we're making sure that we're hitting those developmental levels. They're rolling over, sitting up, holding their bottle. As they're starting to say ma, 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 dad, 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 we're putting it into words and sentences and holding their fingers as it's time to walk and all those different fun things that we're making sure they're hitting those developmental needs. Medical. When a child is brand new to foster care, for the first time ever, they're entering foster care, we have to do 3 things in the first 30 days of placement. We call it 3 and 30. And the first 30 days, we have to have a CANS assessment. That stands for Child Adolescent Needs and Strengths. It's a behavioral health assessment for children 3 and older. We also have to have a full physical exam within that first 30 days. And the first 3 days of that placement, we have to do the medical screening, which is kind of a subjective medical screening by the doctor. They're looking for lice and impetigo and things that our eyes just may not know what to look for. Medicaid stated that 80% of children entering the foster care system have a missed diagnosis, whatever they're being placed in foster care. And it could be something as mild, like I said, as lice or impetigo. It could be scabies or even broken bones or wounds that nobody else caught when they were taking custody of that child. So that's kind of something to be aware of. Now, it is 3 business days. So let's say today is Monday. That means we would have till Wednesday to have that 3-day evaluation done. It count the day that child is placed with you counts as day 1. So we got to stay on top of those. Social. For children 3 and older, they have to be in a social or recreational activity. For young kids, that could be story time at the library, things of that nature. As they get in school, things get a little bit more easier with school electives like baseball, sports, FFA, drama, choir, band, variety of other things that are out there that my brain can't think of right now. In the community, it could also be swimming lessons at the YMCA, karate lessons, dance, piano, art lessons. Those are all considered social and recreational activities. Remember, reimbursement money is to be used on the child's benefit because there's so much of it. You're going to be able to get that Mercedes you always wanted. It's $27.07 a day for a basic care child. For foster adopt children, they may have never known, or they've only known harsh discipline devoid of love. So it's important that you apply loving correction, that we are empathetic to that child when they come into the home. We're going to have to do lots of redirection. They're jumping on the couch. We can't just scream, "Get off the couch!" We got to say, "Buddy, that's not the way we take care of our furniture in this house. If we're going to sit on the couch, we put our butt in the chair and our feet on the floor. Otherwise, we go outside and we horseplay. We don't do that in the house. We're still paying for that couch." So we got to do lots of redirection, and there's going to be lots of it, several months of it, about running in the house and keeping your hands to yourself and all of those different types of things. But stay patient in doing so, because children are not accessing the upstairs part of their brain where household rules go. They're still in that downstairs survival part of their brain where they're functioning day to day, and household rules doesn't fit into that downstairs brain. Survival does. So we're going to have to do lots of redirection, lots of reminding. Some foster adopt children may have seen the right way of living role modeled by a significant adult in their life. Maybe they got to spend the weekend with grandma and grandpa, or a week during the summer with grandma and grandpa, or spend the night at a friend's house, where they got to see what it was like to be tucked into bed, to feel safe, to have 3 meals a day and snacks, and just have that safe memory being with them. Unfortunately, at home, they probably do see immorality and addiction, which could be domestic violence and mental health issues and substance abuse related issues. It seems like it doesn't matter why a child enters the foster care system, like physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, abandonment. Substance abuse is that underlying factor of why children cannot go home. For so many of our kids, they have seen that addiction. They know when mom passes out to roll her on her side so she doesn't vomit and aspirate, to cover her up on the ground with a blanket. They're being the parentified child in those situations. Domestic violence in the home, between mom and dad, which probably also led to physical abuse. We also got to think about what impact did law enforcement have in their life. If mom was arrested for prostitution, or dad was arrested for domestic violence or drugs, they're coming in and out of the home. We have some children that have to be lookout for mom and dad, for the police. We had a child in one of our homes a while back, about 3 or 4 years old, and they were in their booster seat, and if they saw a cop while they were driving down the road, they'd scream, "Cop!" And it would give the foster parents a mild heart attack. But they would have to reiterate to them, "Yes, we see them, and we're driving the speed limits. We have our seatbelts on. You're in your booster seats." If we ever got lost, we would find a police officer to help us. So they had to do a lot of that redirection with them as well. So some of our children may mistake love for weakness. So it's important that you do present as a united front while working through conflict. If you're a 2-parent home, children manipulate, and that doesn't have anything to do with trauma. I'm going to tell you right now, guilty of it as a child. My grandparents lived 2 streets over, and if my mom and dad said no, I was calling my Nana because she was going to make it happen. It would infuriate my parents. I should have been in probably more trouble than what I was as a child. But that's manipulation. If a child asks parent A if they can go outside and play, and they say, no, I need you to go get started on your homework. And then they go ask parent B, can I go outside and play? And parent B goes, I don't care. And they go outside. That, don't get mad at each other. That's not a breakdown in your communication. That child just manipulated you. And so now we need to bring that child in and say, why? Why did you go ask parent B after parent A already said no? That's manipulation. So not only can you not go outside and play outside, you got to sit down and do your homework, and there's going to be no television for the rest of the afternoon. We have to follow through with that manipulation and getting them to understand what that means. When parents stand as a united front, it's going to give that child a sense of acceptance, of authority, and understanding. They cannot manipulate two people. Sometimes we may even see it between the child manipulating between a parent and a CPS worker, a parent in Pathways, a parent in the school district, where they're just trying to get their way. So it's important that we all stay on with that open line of communication with what's going on in their life. Some of our kiddos may use it as a divide and conquer technique because they used to have to survive, and it became a survival skill for them. But now that's probably not necessarily what this is. Discipline should encourage the child to do better, not discourage them to the point of giving up. And I think this is where we fail sometimes in the foster care world. We're really good about consequencing. We can consequence the hell out of some kids. And at what point do we consequence so much that they give up? It doesn't matter what I do, it's never going to be right. I'm never going to do anything right in this house. And so I think it's really important that we do encourage. If we're at Chick-fil-A and it's time to go, they didn't push anybody down the slide, they didn't throw a ball 2 inches from somebody's face in the ball pit, we said it's time to go, and they went and got their shoes and put their shoes on. Guys, that's a good day. Write that in your monthly foster parent notes. You have to do monthly foster parent notes. So write those good things down. That is a good day for that child. If we go home and they put their shoes away and they start on their homework without being told, say a silent prayer of thanks. But write that down. How hard did you work as a parent to get that child to do that without being reminded? So write those things down. What we tend to do a lot of times is write down all the negative, everything that they did wrong, the words they said that were wrong, the hitting, the cussing, the walking away from us, the defiance, the meltdowns, the tantrums. And then when you read a child's record, it's like, my gosh, you wonder what happened to Rosemary's Baby. Here she is. But, we've got to make sure that we are documenting the good with the bad. Imagine if somebody followed you around all day, every day, but only wrote the bad things down that you did. You rolled through a stop sign. You weren't polite to somebody at the grocery store. You cut them off going to the register. Whatever it is. And then somebody read your autobiography, your life story, based on those perceptions. You're going to look like a horrible human being. We got to think the same way for children. As we're writing those foster parent notes, we're writing their autobiography. Write the good things that child has done. Because of their previous environments, our children may be especially sensitive to teasing. So it's important to be mindful about where kids come from. These children were not raised with you. They do not understand your sense of humor or sarcasm. It's not until adolescence that a child begins to understand sarcasm. At a younger age, our elementary school age kids, they're very literal in the way they think. If they're in their bedroom playing and we're running late and we're getting all our stuff together and we walk past their bedroom and go, by all means, take all day, and we get all our stuff together and we come back and we're like, what are you doing? We got to go. We said, let's go. And they're going to say, look at you and go, you said take all day. They're very literal in the things that that we say to them. So kind of keep that in mind. We had a family, wonderful family, Dor, probably about 5 years ago. She was getting something out of the top of a shelf over the wash machine, and a dog treat fell on the floor. And she looked at the little boy and she said, oh, there's your snack. And the little boy looked her dead in the eyes and he said, we don't eat dog food anymore. She never knew they ate dog food to begin with. It broke her heart. It shattered her because she's like, oh my gosh, she had 3 boys, biological boys. And she's like, they would have been like, Mom, stop being stupid or whatever. But this child was just very literal with those things. So kind of keep that in mind. As you're joking and kidding around, we do want you to incorporate children into your home as your own, but we just got to know their life experience has been a little bit different and they just don't have that bond and understanding with you yet. So be mindful. Discipline is meant to prevent negative behaviors. Teasing can actually cause them. Also, after coming into care, it's hard for kids not to know they're a foster child because we enroll them with CPS documentation. A person that works in the office may tell a teacher, or in an ARD meeting they find out this is a child in foster care, and then kids overhear teachers talking about it, and the next thing you know, kids are saying hateful things to a child like, no wonder nobody wanted you and hated you, that's why you're in foster care, and awful things like that. So we kind of got to remember what's going on in their life when they come in from school and they're slamming things around and we can tell they had a bad day. Hey buddy, what's going on? Tell me what went on at school today. Let's try to figure out what's happening there with them. Number 13 on your test, another fill in the blank. Children aren't mind readers. Explain what you expect from them. So your fill in the blank on number 13 is explain. I think this is one of the more important takeaways tonight. Children that are coming to live with you, they don't know what your household rules are. They don't know what your expectations are. They've never been told these things. And sometimes our brain says, well, they're 10 years old. They should know, after our dinner time, we start our bedtime routine. They need to go bathe. How do they know to bathe? Has anybody taught them this? Have you taught them how to turn on the shower and how to feel if the water is not too hot or not too cold? How much soap to use? How much shampoo to use? Where are the towels? So it's really good to explain these things as we go throughout our day, just like we're working with a 2-year-old. If we're in the car and we pull up to Walmart, turn around and say, before we even walk in this store, we're not looking at DVDs, we're not looking at CDs, we're not looking at toys. We're going to the grocery section, and you have 2 choices. You could walk next to me, or you could walk next to the basket. We're not going to run up and down aisles. We're not going to hide in clothes. Now we have a point of reference. When we go in that store and that child says, can I go look at toys? What did we talk about in the car? If they start trying to run up and down the aisles, what did we talk about in the car? We have a point of reference. So explain those things before we get to them. Remember, a message sent is not always a message received. We need eyes. And this goes for some of our adults. So we need to have eyes when we're telling them to do something. We're giving them a task or we're reprimanding. If that child is watching TV or playing a video game and we say, take out the trash, did they hear us? No, that's your spouse. That's not even a child. So we need to make them pause it, look us in the eyes. What did I just tell you to do? Those types of things. Give them one task at a time. Keep your instructions simple. Once they take that trash out and they come back inside, now go wash your hands. Now we're going to start on homework. Now we're going to fill in the blank, but keep your instructions simple because they're going to need some help with remembering those because they've never had that before. Remember, you are the authority in your house, but keep your instructions simple. We talked about being the authority earlier in the PowerPoint. So remember, you are that authoritarian in your home, but we want to keep those instructions simple. Keep them one task at a time. Also, what you do is more powerful than what you say. Guys, this is where manners are more caught than taught. They're going to catch us opening the door for someone, saying please and thank you, yes ma'am and no sir. So that's where they're going to catch these things because we're role modeling it for them. No different than us as an adult. If we go to work every day and we're supposed to be there by 8:30 a.m. and our boss rolls in every day at 10, what time are we going to start showing up? 9:45. Get there quick enough to make it look like we've been doing something before they walk through the door. So kids are the same way. Role model these things for them. Basic concepts our children should learn while they're living with you. Respect property by protecting it and keeping it orderly. That's picking their toys up. If they're dragged them out all over the living room or their bedroom, we pick them up every evening before we go to bed. What is some of your rules? A lot of our kids have sensory processing disorder. They don't have the same nervous system, the same touch that we do. It's not there. So some kids are very, very hard with toys and they break their toys. Well, guess what? Because you broke your toy, we're not going to replace it. You can do extra chores and extra things around the house to earn the money to replace whatever it is they broke. Or if they broke their sister's Barbie doll in half, now guess what? You're going to take over her chores to earn the money to replace the Barbie doll that you broke. Display proper manners and behaviors by respecting others' rights. Don't get 2 inches from my nose to tell me something. Our personal body space is 2 feet. That if you put your arm out, that arm is about 2 feet. This is my bubble. Take a step back. Now tell me what it is you have to say, but respect others' rights, and personal space. Refrain from harming others by valuing them, as well as hurting or intimidation disguised as play is not to be tolerated. If we did go to Chick-fil-A and they were playing on the playground and they shoved a child down the slide just because they were ready for their turn, guess what? Go get your shoes. We're going home. That's we're not tolerating that here. So don't allow hurting or intimidation. Practice self-control by staying in control. Guys, you're role modeling this for that child. We ask you during the home study, whenever you have a stressful day or negative feelings, how do you handle it? When you come home from work, do you work in the yard? Do you go for a walk? Do you ride your bike? Do you watch television, cook and clean? What is it that you do to kind of decompress? Well, we are teaching children the same thing. So whenever they've had a bad day, how do we handle those stressful feelings? So we can walk through those things with them. Reasonable expectations must be in place. Like I said earlier, these children are going to cuss. We have twin 2.5-year-olds right now that are mother effing everybody. They don't know what they're saying at that young of an age. They're mimicking, they're regurgitating the words that they heard in the home environment that they came from. So we've got to be mindful of that. We got to do lots of redirection or timeouts, or sometimes, ignoring may be your best option in some situations. But we've got to have reasonable expectations. If they fall out in the middle of the floor of Walmart and they're screaming and crying and cussing and everybody's looking at you and you feel your face go hot with embarrassment, you can't call us and go, hey, come get little Johnny. He just embarrassed me at Walmart. I'm not going to foster him anymore. That's not how this works. You're making a commitment to these children. And by making a commitment, you're saying you're in it with the long haul, through the good times and the bad. And sometimes in the beginning, the bad is going to outweigh the good that first year or so. So have those reasonable expectations. Our foster adopt children will need time to comprehend and adjust to your style of discipline and expectations. They're going to need at least 6 months to start learning household routines, rules, what time we get up in the morning, what time we go to bed. When we come in from school, what is our expectation? It's going to take them a little while to understand those different things and start retaining them. We also have to remember poor discipline techniques have caused more harm than good in the life of a child, where mom and dad have very yo-yo parenting, where that child was allowed to get away with something, and they reprimanded them like verbally 10 or 12 times. They told them to stop, and the child turned around and did it again, but there was no follow through. So then they finally snapped and spanked them or grounded them or did whatever it was they were going to do, but then turn around and let them do it 10 more times. So they've had that inconsistency in their life. So this is where it's really important for you as that adult, as that parent, to be consistent. If they do something and we give them a timeout, take away a privilege, send them to their bedroom, and they turn around and do it again, guys, follow through. Time out, revoke a privilege, send them to their bedroom. Whatever it is your household rule is, follow through with it. They're going to consistently test you to see at what point are you going to give up? At what point will you stop, and just let them run the roost, rule the roost, and do whatever it is they want to do. So you have to have consistency in your parenting. So their feelings, negative feelings toward their circumstances may be expressed by harming themselves or others, complex, confusing behaviors. After a family visit or after therapy, we're going to see big emotions. You're gonna hear things. I hate it here. I want to go home. I hate you. You're not my mom. You can't tell me what to do. They're gonna say a lot of those things. Guys, they're little kids and they're trying to make sense of the world. They don't understand it. So we've got to make sure we're patient, understanding. Don't take it personal. They're little kids. Their behaviors are a reflection of how they're feeling. They don't have the words to tell us what's going on. This is the one thing that always kind of makes me laugh is we tell children, use your words, tell me what's wrong. Don't hit little Johnny, use your words. Guys, do we follow that rule as adults? No, we do not. I'm here to tell you. We come in from work and we've had a bad day at work. And if you're married or have a spouse or significant other, family member, best friend, whoever it is, guess who we take it out on? We take it out on the people we feel safest with. And we're snippy with them and we're short with our sentences and we do things to maybe pick an argument. Or they're going, what's wrong? Nothing. Nothing's wrong. Nope. Are you sure? Let's talk about it. Nope. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong at all. Nope. We're not using our words. We're not talking about it, but yet we have these higher expectations that a child is supposed to be doing these things that we as adults don't even do. So we're going to see those big emotions acted out in behaviors and meltdowns, and that's their way of telling you something's wrong. Discipline styles may need to be altered for the personalities of every child. They're going to have not only different personalities, but life experiences and special needs. So every child is going to be a little bit different. So we have to be quick to reinforce behaviors. This is number 14 on your test. Social rewards. Social rewards is something we should do every day. Pats on the back. Good job, buddy. Thank you for making your bed. We have two different types of praise. Praise for doing and praise for being. We're really good at praise for doing. They did something to get our praise. Thank you for making your bed. Thank you for being good at school today. Thank you for getting an A on your report card. Thank you for taking your dinner plate from the kitchen table to the sink. We're constantly thanking them for doing something. That comes from our head. That matches our head to their head. Doesn't take a whole lot of to put into that thank you. Now, our heart, to match our heart to their heart, a heartfelt positive praise is thanking them for just being who they are. Buddy, I am so happy that you're in our life now. Since you've come into our life, you make me smile. You make us laugh, and we just have enjoyed life so much better with you here. They did not ask for that praise. They didn't do something to receive it. You caught them out of the blue. That comes from your heart. And we're the same way as adults. If somebody at work tell us 5,000 times, thank you for doing your job. You're so good. You're the best person here. You have the most compliance in all of your cases and you're da-da-da-da-da-da. That doesn't mean anything to us because we hear it all the time, but it's those things that come from our heart. I had a foster family once that when they adopted their two kiddos, she brought me an Igloo ice chest and she pre-made and froze meals. And she gave them to me and she said, you devoted so much time and attention to our family that I know you spent time away from yours. This is how we can give back to you to spend that time with your family. That was one of the most heartfelt gifts I think I have ever received in my life. So think about that when we're praising. Activity rewards. Activity rewards are like, buddy, if you get through school today without getting your name on the board, a ticket pulled, whatever, sent to the principal's office, when you get home from school today, you can have 30 minutes of video game time or a 30-minute television program before we get started on homework. And then we turn it into the week. If you can make it all the way through Friday without getting in trouble, this is what we're going to do. Give a child something that gives them control. These children have no control over their life. They didn't get to pick where they were going to live, if they were going to get to be with their brothers and sisters, what school they were going to go to. They have no control over their life. So on Friday, they've had such a good week. Guess what? You get to pick what we're going to do as a family. We can go to Urban Air and jump on the trampolines, or we can go watch a movie or go to the skate park or whatever it is in your community that you like to do. But we give them those options and let them pick between those two. We give them that control. We're not supposed to use food as a reward or a consequence because children come to us from neglect. Now, I guarantee you, we do it without even thinking about it. We go, they had such a good day at school today. Let's drive through Dairy Queen and get a Blizzard. Let's go to Minchie's and get some yogurt. Let's do whatever. We just don't even think about it. We just do it. But we're not supposed to use food as a reward because of their neglect background. However, let's say it's Friday night and we're ordering pizza. You get to pick the toppings, or you get to pick, we're going to order out tonight. You get to pick between pizza or Chinese food, whatever it is that your family likes to do. We're going to watch a movie on Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, whatever it is, it's out there. There's so many. You get to pick a movie between these two movies, what we're going to watch as a family. It's family game night. You get to pick the game. That's giving them kind of control of picking their activity reward. And then the third one is a material reward. This is something like if they had a good week at school, they can reach into the grab bag. If they pass all of their grades, they can get a new pair of shoes, or we give them money, or whatever it is. Again, it's your household. You get to pick those things, but that would be a material reward. Physical discipline. Guys, we cannot do it. If you spank a child, and we're about to show you some of the definitions, if you use any type of physical discipline, it is strictly forbidden. It would result in an investigation and possibly the removal of the children in your home and losing your foster care license. So think about that. We've unfortunately had to do this a couple of times with kinship families. You've got to follow the standards. You're not immune because these are your grandkids or nieces and nephews. You're held to the same state licensing regulations, where we've had to relinquish a family's license and CPSs end up moving kids. So guys, you've got to follow the rules. So what about physical discipline? This is number 15 on your test. If a foster adopt parent does use physical discipline, just like I said, it could result in an investigation, lose their license, but some alternative forms of punishment. Here's number 15 on your test, time in. Time in is like a timeout. A timeout is go sit in that chair, go to your bedroom, think about what you just did. I'm going to come talk to you. What we should not do is put children where they face a corner. We need eyes. We need connection. So if a child is going to go sit in a chair, look at us. We need connection. You can have a timeout spot in the home that they go stand on the timeout spot, but we need eyes. We don't need them facing the wall. What a time in is the same thing as a timeout, but with connection. For a timeout, for your biological child, if you said, go sit on that couch and think about what you just did, or go to your bedroom and think about what you just did, they know they're in trouble. But for a child that we do not have that bond and connection to, when we say go, we're sending them away from us. There is no bond and connection there. We're sending them away from us. So what a time in is, we're going to be with them. They can still go to that chair, to their bedroom, whatever it is. We're going to sit with them and we're going to process what they did wrong, why it was wrong, how they would do it differently in the future. We're in it with them. I know that you've probably been told it's 1 minute per year that the child is old. Have you ever put a 5-year-old in timeout for 5 minutes? What do you hear? Is it time yet? Am I done? Even if we set an egg timer or put it on the clock on the kitchen stove to count down, 5 minutes for a 5-year-old is like an hour. So once we discuss with that child and process everything, and we see recognition in their eyes, we're done. You can go now. If they turn around and do it again, We do the same thing over again. Time in is connection. Don't antagonize with time ins or timeouts. If they're crying on the floor, don't do. If you stand up, once you stand up, I'm going to start the clock. Guys, that's antagonizing. We are deeply seeding them more into their downstairs brain, where they're never going to stop crying if we keep doing that. They're not going to be able to regulate. Get on the floor, rub their back, calm them down, soothe them. Once they're regained control over their thoughts, their body, and their emotions, now we process with them. But don't do those antagonizing things when it comes to that, but do the time ins, sit and process with them. Bedtimes. If you're going to do an early bedtime, do it in 5-minute increments. Writing assignments. We cannot make a child write sentences like Bart Simpson on the beginning of The Simpsons. I will not kick the dog. I will not kick the dog. I will not kick the dog. Instead, we can do a writing assignment, what they did wrong, why it was wrong, how they could do it differently in the future. That's processing. So that would be a writing assignment. Extra chores. I think chores are great for children. I don't know, they should be sending this out to you ahead of time, but here's a document to talk about age appropriate chores. Even at 2 to 3 years old, we can give a child a chore. At daycare, if we're picking them up, what are they doing? They're usually cleaning up the room before they leave. Same way at home. Before we go to bed, you're going to clean up your toys out of the living room or your bedroom, and we sing the cleanup song. Clean up, everybody. If you know that song, start singing it and helping them to pick up their toys. 4 to 5 years old can start taking on a little bit more responsibility, like taking their plate from the kitchen table to the sink or the dishwasher, setting the table. When we get back from the grocery store, helping to carry in the bags to the kitchen. Those types of things. 6 to 8 years old, again, a little more responsibility. They can fill up the dog's water bowl or dump the dog's food into their bowl. They can, if we get the laundry out and fold it, they can take it to their bedroom and put it in the drawer or hang it in the closet. So those types of things. We can start teaching them how to vacuum. 9 to 12 and 13 and older, I think this is a really great opportunity to start teaching life skills. This is where they need to start learning how to do their laundry. Guys, I went to college and didn't know how to do my laundry. I think it was my mom's ploy that I wanted me to come home every weekend from college. But we've got to teach, those different types of things. How to change the oil in a car, to change a car tire. They're not going to have somebody else in their life to teach them this. So it's important that we start teaching these things now. We have a family that works with teenage girls, and every one of them has a phone, and in their phone, they have an app for coupons. And she is teaching them how to coupon, because it's important now that they understand how to save money and make a dollar stretch, because whenever they're out on their own and they're adults, they're not going to have that person that comes back and teaches them those things. So take the opportunity now while those kids are in your home to teach them these life skills. Also on here are some behavior charts. Here's one on how do I feel. If that child can't verbalize how they feel, they can point to how they're feeling today. I had a foster family that turned these into magnets, and she put them on the refrigerator. And if that child was feeling sad or whatever, they would take that magnet and put it on a special spot in the refrigerator. She knew, give them distance, give them space. We're still going to do our homework when they come home from school today. But I'm going to approach it a completely different way than, hey, go sit down and do your homework and stay on their butt about it, because they're not in the mood for that today. Here's some behavior charts, like things they need to work on. This could be behaviors, this could be chores, could be a variety of things, but you can fill in the blank. Kind of same thing over again. Here's a good one for younger children. Help the frog get to the lily pad. Every day that child has a good day, we color in a circle, we put a check mark, we put a sticker. When that child makes it to the lily pad, guess what? It's time to do something fun that child enjoys doing. Now, don't be surprised if you get a child that self-destructs. We have some children that do not see themselves as worthy of receiving a reward. So the day before they make it to that lily pad, they may get in trouble at school. They self-destruct because they do not see themselves worthy. Or they've been good all week at school. It's Friday. Today's the day we're going to pick a reward. and they blow it. So for that child, we may have to catch them off guard and just kind of say, hey, buddy, today was such a good day. This is what we're going to go do. We're going to go to the park and let you play, and then we're going to go home. Or we're going to ride bikes or whatever, and then start on our homework. But anyway, I literally Googled these off of the internet. You have that ability to do the exact same thing. So, and then we have our discipline policy. This is where the next couple of questions on your test are going to come from. If you scroll down to page 3 of the policy document, it says prohibited forms of punishment. So it kind of gives you the definition right here, guys, of corporal punishment. And I believe this is also number 16 on your test. Corporal punishment, caregivers may not use or threaten. So your 2 fill in the blanks on number 16 are use or threaten to use corporal punishment with any child in care. So not only can we not spank them, we cannot threaten them with do it again, I'm going to spank you. Even though we know we can't do it, we cannot threaten corporal discipline. Corporal punishment is the infliction of physical pain on any part of the child's body as a means of controlling or managing the child's behavior. Twisting ears, pulling hair, pinching them on the back of their arm, grabbing their arm, twisting their arm behind their back. Any of those things, anything that causes the infliction of physical pain on any part of the child's body as a mean of controlling or managing their behavior, that is considered corporal punishment. Jumping down to number 17 on your test, if you look at number 4 there on your page, it says hold a physical position such as kneeling or squatting. Number 17 says, can a child hold a physical position as discipline such as kneeling or squatting? Number 17, the answer is false. I should have worded that yes or no, not true or false, but the answer to number 17 is false. And then lastly, in addition to corporal punishment, prohibited discipline techniques include, but are not limited to, so these are all your answers to number 18 that I just highlighted in blue. I'll read through them. You just have to pick 4 of them. So as I read through them, you can write your answers down. Any harsh, cruel, unusual, unnecessary, demeaning, or humiliating treatment. Denial of mail or visit with their families. Threatening the loss of placement. Using sarcastic or cruel humor and verbal abuse, pinching, pulling hair, biting, flicking, or shaking a child, putting anything on the child's mouth, such as soap or tape, humiliating, shaming, ridiculing, rejecting, or yelling at the child, subjecting the child to abusive or profane language, placing a child in a dark room, bathroom, or closet, requiring a child to remain silent or inactive for inappropriately long periods of time for the child's age, confining a child to a high chair, car seat, box, or other similar furniture or equipment, denying their basic rights as a child, withholding food that meets the child's nutritional requirements, or using or threatening the use of restraint as a disciplinary technique. So any of those work for number 18 there. So that gets your last 8 questions. Again, those first 10 questions come from the video, the overview of TBRI, I think it's called Putting the Pieces Together. You can go back and rewatch that if you have any questions or missed any answers on numbers 1 through 10. Once you have finished your test, you're going to turn that into your home developer in whatever office that you're working with. In Abilene, that's Emily Eggleston. In Dallas-Fort Worth, that is Katie Hart or Tammy Cavanis. In San Antonio, it's Stephanie Torres or Chrissy Bosley. In Austin, Waco, that is Jason Berry. In Houston, it's Hannah Blansett, Krishna Patel, Marlena Cantu, or Trinell Jones. Had to think about that. So that's your home developer. If you're a licensed foster family, you're going to turn that into your family specialist, your case manager that comes to your home. So that way you can get that to them. If you have any questions, we're going to be ending the video now, and you can ask those to the monitor that is currently playing this video. You can unmute or type your questions into the chat box. Thank you so much for joining, and you'll have a great rest of the day.